Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to make this video to share a project that I'm going to be working on for the foreseeable future. And this project comes in the form of a question. And that question is, what makes stories resonate with us? Since I was a kid, I've been fascinated with movies and storytelling in general. That manifested itself as I grew older into wanting to understand how movies were made, researching the steps that went into that, following people currently like John Campea and Christian Harloff, who came from AMC Movie Talk and then moved onto Collider and then finally became independent. I encourage you to check them out if you're interested in movie news. But something my dad did as a kid was show me all of the movies that he enjoyed growing up, things like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, comedies like Caddyshack or Airplane, and I really enjoyed that time with him. And after I researched the entire movie industry and figured out how they made the movies, the next logical step for me was figuring out what makes these stories resonate with us. Reading books on psychology, how the mind works, and other books about archetypes like Joseph Campbell's A Hero with a Thousand Faces, it's pretty clear that stories actually have meaning on a deeply psychological and I think anthropological level. And I want to tap into that a little bit. I want to figure out what's there. And a few of the questions I think that will be helpful in getting to that answer, I have them below here. So let's take a look. For what reasons do we canonize something as a classic? What gives a classic story its staying power, right? So we have a bunch of canonized classics, especially in the Western canon, whether it be the Bible, or you can go all the way up to modern times like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, stories of that nature. Those stick around, they're widely popular in our culture, and it's not just because there's, magic or fantasy or comedy. There's a structure to those stories. There's something that the authors of those stories found that they're playing on. They understood, at least to some degree, what they were writing would kind of fit into a niche into our minds, and that's what I'm trying to focus on. And I do want to make a distinction. I think that there are bad stories that no matter who had to work with them, they'd still come out poorly as a movie or a TV series or a book. But there are good structures of stories, archetypal stories, again referring to Joseph Campbell like A Hero's Journey. There are stories like that, even if written poorly to some degree, will still be effective. That's what I want to kind of separate, is that I think that there are bones of a story that just work, and they work for humanity because they've been embedded into our psychological and biological framework. And I think that's pretty cool. So what is it that triggers a story to appeal to us? To figure that out, I think I'll need to study the common myths and archetypes that have survived through the years and identify the reasons why those don't go away. And I'm talking cross-culturally. And to help with this, I'll show you a book list I've compiled on Goodreads, a list called Archetypes, Stories, and Mythology. So I've already read A Hero with a Thousand Faces, which I'll do a book review for eventually, but it's going to be important to check out things like, I think, Egyptian mythology. And I've got Greek mythology in here somewhere by Stephen Fry, where he goes into the Greek myths retold. Beginner books like World Mythology for Beginners, 50 Timeless Tales from Around the Globe. I think it's going to be important to dive into, like I said, the mythology of the world and figure out what stories all of these cultures found to be most important. As far as I can tell, there are a few subjects I'll need to use as the foundation for figuring this out. Anthropology, which I've mentioned, studying humans and figuring out why we are the way we are. Psychology, how we think, why we think the things we do. History and myths, what were the myths of the great societies. And religion. Religion comes in many forms around the world, but I think that each religion has a similar structure to it in the story that it tells, a story of creation. So why do stories of creation and all of the sub-stories that branch off of that, why do those have staying power? Why is the Bible or any other religious text still around today? I do want to dive deeper into the influences of Western civilization in terms of the literature and stories that it was founded on, considering it's regarded the best civilization ever constructed, at least the freest society ever constructed. I think it's important to understand how Western canonized stories were utilized in forming what the West is today, especially in terms of our culture. And I'll show you guys the other book lists I have going on in Goodreads. Here are my anthropology books. I have read The Ape That Understood the Universe already, which I thought was a good book. I'll do a review on that shortly. I'm also going to build a blog and post the written reviews to the blog. But I have The Moral Animal on here, The Social Leap, Why Men Behave Badly, The Blank Slate by Steven Pinker, Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. So feel free to capture this list, and if you're interested in anthropology or evolutionary psychology, this would be great if you want to copy this and find some inspiration from it. As for world history, I have History of Ancient Rome, which I have already read by Mary Beard. I did not think that book was that great. It was kind of a dry read to me. Felt like a chore getting through it. But I've got Churchill, Great Influenza, Team of Rivals, Abraham Lincoln, Sapiens would probably be a great book to read for this, just to give me a foundation to work with. Why Nations Fail, The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. I think all of these books are going to have stories embedded in them that will help me understand what they're built on and how culture comes into that through stories. And finally, here's my psychology tab. I got all the greatest hits, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. I just got through Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. A lot of good stuff in there as to how your mind perceives stories, how it needs stories, and how it brings order to your consciousness when you actually watch something like a movie that just completely immerses you. So a lot of cool info from there. Beyond Order, I just finished that, 12 More Rules for Life. Jordan Peterson he analyzes Harry Potter and what the mythology in the Harry Potter series means. Really fascinating stuff. Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene, that'll be a good one to read. If I want to understand human nature, what better thing to do than read The Laws of Human Nature? Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, again, capture this list if you'd like it. If you're interested in psychology, it'd be a good place to start, I think. So this is the outline I have so far with what makes stories resonate with us. Now, I still am going to post other reviews about different books like finance books or fiction, because I might want to break from this every once in a while. I think that's okay, but wanted to let you know that I'm going to try and answer this question as specifically as I possibly can and really dig deep into it. If you guys have any suggestions as to books that I can add to these levels of anthropology, psychology, history, myths, and religion, please let me know. I'm happy to add books to those lists. That's it for now. Can't wait to share what I find. I think this will be really fun, and hopefully you guys enjoy the ride. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.